Welcome, guys.
Howdy.
Hey Leo. Hey Wes. Hey
Hey,
Leo.
how you all doing?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. Today we're looking at 1994. That should be an interesting one for the three of us, given that 1984 was 10 years prior, which none of us knew each other. And by the time 1994 comes along, we're all friends.
There you
We've been
go.
traveling for a while, traveling together. I remember running into you and John Placino at concerts, and you had your PBS radio show at that stage.
Yep, that's right. Correct. Absolutely. I was doing radio. You were working in a record with a record company, and Wes was. What were you doing, Wes?
I was very corporate at that stage. I was having to wear a suit and tie every day. And
Can we imagine?
Huh?
Can we imagine such a
And at that stage, my hair was a similar length to you, Leo.
Wow. Yeah.
I had to wear it back,
Yeah.
oh,
wear it back in the ponytail.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing occasionally.
yeah, I might have had hair that length at that stage too.
I
You
think
had the Grand Malay, Martin, as I recall.
Well, I had one in the 80s when Perfect Stranger, my band was together, and then I cut it off. And then by the mid 90s, I was growing it all back again.
All
And
right.
wow.
by the late 90s, it was all off again and has never come back.
Cool. So looking forward to our top fives, guys. Let's get started. Martin, do you want to start with your number five?
Sure. A group that appeared out of nowhere to me, Counting Crows. And they had a big hit with the song called Mr. Jones, but the single that really worked for me, a song about mental illness called Round Here. And I don't know if you remember that one. They're kind of folk rock, the rocking side of folk rock, or maybe you might call it Americana. And I think Adam Duritz was the singer, is the singer. One of those standalone kind of voices, very distinctive voice. I never really followed through on their other work, but Round Here just really hit me here. Just really powerful song.
Cool. Where's your number five?
The American hip hop band Rise Robots Rise first recorded my number five song for its self-titled album in 1992. Then a Welsh singer comes along who's had hits with It's Not Unusual and The Green, Green Grass of Home in the 60s, re-recorded it in 1994. And it became one of the biggest hits for him in 5 years, following his cover of the Prince song Kiss. The singer performed the song at the AFL Grand Final a decade ago, and earlier this year he was in town for a concert at the Margaret Court Arena. First and foremost, he's a rocker with a true rhythm and blues soul. I'm talking about Tom Jones, and the song is If You Only Knew, my number five song.
Cool.
Wow, great choice.
Yeah. Well, my number five, guys, is one that Martin and I shared in our covers episode, where we counted down our top five covers of all time, and it's Frente with their cover of the song Bizarre Love Triangle. So I'm not sure if we're going to hear more about that later on, but for me, that's my number five is Frente, a great Aussie act who had some fantastic hits, and Marvin the Album is the one that I continue to listen to today. It's a great album from Frente, but as far as the singles are concerned, Bizarre Love Triangle has to be there in my top five, without a doubt. Okay, boys, number four, Martin.
Well, I'm right with you there, Leo. It's my number four song, Frente Bizarre Love Triangle. And I quite like the New Order version, the original version too. But just to hear Angie Hart and Simon Austin, that very plaintive, lonely nylon string guitar, and a complete reinvention of the song. Number 4 for me, Bizarre Love Triangle by Frente.
Awesome. Good choice, Martin. Where's your number 4, mate?
Okay, let's play the game again, all right? Let's see if you can get them. That's an important part of any TV show is the theme music, right? Whether it's Gilligan's Island, Mission Impossible, Hawaii Five-0, they're just 3 of the most recognizable. And the theme to The Greatest American Hero, Hill Street Blues, Happy Days, The Monkees, Welcome Back Kotter, Doctor Who, and The Addams Family. They're just some of the TV themes that became hit records, though not all with the original soundtrack. In 1994, an American new wave band recording under a fictional name that's very similar to their own, had a field day with a theme to a classic cartoon series. They lifted and revamped the original theme, added an incessant tribal beat, topped with samples of cartoons and vocal loops. Why? Because it was the theme to a live-action comedy film that recreated a 60s cartoon series about the adventures of Fred, Wilma, Pebbles, Barney, Betty, and Dino. For a long time, before the meaning of words changed, the BC 52s out with a hit called Meet the Flintstones.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, listen to it. You've got to play it.
What's that? Dickens. What other words could in?
Reeled him in.
BC 52s. I love it. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Wes. Well, my number 4 is a bit of a departure from the rock and roll that I was enjoying, but still managed to get to number 1 here in Australia. And this song really captivates me, and all I want to do is get up and dance when I hear this song. I've looked it up, and it's a combination of techno, reggae, and Europop. And that's not my style, but this song I can't get out of my head. Whenever I listen to it, I love it. And it's Ace of Base and a song called The Sign. This song was a massive hit in 1994, and I couldn't leave it out because I've got to admit that this is one song that, even though it's not in my wheelhouse as far as listening is concerned, it's still one of the catchiest and hypnotic songs that still resonates with me today. So that's my number 4, Ace of Base, and a song called The Sign. Okay, number 3, Martin.
Okay, John Anderson, who has had a long and storied career as the lead singer of Yes, and as part of the duo John and Vangelis. I don't know if you remember The Friends of Mr. Cairo or State of Independence, which Donna Summer did a cover of herself and had a big hit with. So at a certain point, at this stage in 94, John Anderson was still a part of Yes. The 90125 era lineup of Yes and the 70s era lineup of Yes had come together and made a record called Union, which was basically the two factions of the band making individual records and the record company going, yeah, don't like either of them, put them together. So they put out the record called Union a year or two prior. And then they toured very successfully and had a wonderful time. And the tour was one of the best ever with an expanded lineup. And after that tour, the 70s members were shunted off and they made an album called Talk in 94. But John Anderson and the 70s era lineup did reconvene in 95. And in between all of this, EMI Classics, that EMI's classical label, came to John Anderson and said, how do you feel about re-recording some of your favourite songs that you've written with orchestration? So he put out an album on EMI Classics called Change We Must, and there was a single called Change We Must, which is a song he'd written with Vangelis. And the B-side of this single was State of Independence, another John and Vangelis song, but this was just John Anderson. And very, very different than the John and Vangelis version. And I just find the melody just absolutely exquisite. One of these kind of gentle, it's not particularly slow, but it's loping, and it's very warm and embracing and comforting kind of song. That's my number 3.
Oh, okay.
John Anderson, Change We Must.
Wow. Okay. Wes?
Another yarn.
Go for it.
The American poet Win Cooper wrote a poem called Fun in 1987. Now, Cooper was inspired to write the poem by a conversation at a bar with a friend and occasional writer called Bill Ripley. And in that conversation, he said, all I want to do is have a little fun before I die. And that became the first line of the poem. His book sold 500 copies in that year. An American singer and songwriter bought a copy of that, adapted the lyrics, and added the opening phrase, "This ain't no disco," which was a reference to the song Life During Wartime by Talking Heads. My number 3 song is All I Want to Do. And you know, Sheryl Crow. It went to number 1 in Australia that year in 1994.
Yeah,
Wow.
certainly did.
Just love the groove of the song.
Yeah.
Every time you hear it, you go, oh, yeah, I want to turn this up.
Yeah, this is helping me on the process. I'm on my way to having some fun just by having this on. Yeah. Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah.
Oh, my favorite song of hers. The new album's not bad either.
Oops, can't see that. There it is. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting because last time when you were talking about 1984, Wes, you were a DJ at the time and in Taree, and
Yep.
you were sick of a lot of these number 1 songs by the time they exited the charts. But obviously, Sheryl Crow still resonates, not being within the realms of the music industry per se.
Well, that's because I didn't have to play it 20 times a week.
Correct.
I mean, that's got to kill the fun for a lot of people.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
and that's just called The Songs Burn.
Yeah.
And fortunately, this is, I wasn't doing radio full time at this time. I'd gone very corporate, as I told you. And so, hey, I was able to enjoy the song for what it was.
Yeah, great.
Beautiful.
Right.
Well, my number 3, boys, is an artist or a band, you might say, that emanated from Australia and became huge internationally, or semi-huge, I guess. You can't really say huge, but they're very well known throughout the world really now. And it's Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And in our 1984 show, I mentioned briefly that my manager at the time was introducing me to music that he was really enjoying, and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, or Nick Cave and the Birthday Party at the time, was what he was recommending, but it didn't have the impact at the time because I wasn't really, it was too out there for my musical ears. But as time passed on and Nick Cave began to, I guess, mature as an artist, by 1994, his songs were really hitting the mark for me. This one was released on the 28th of March in 94, and in the Triple J Hottest 100 got to number 11, and it's a song called Do You Love Me? And it's a great song, and this is when Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds really started, pressing in terms of my listening habits. And I really love this song still 30 years later. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with Do You Love Me?
Mm.
Great stuff.
Good. Yeah.
All
I
right.
came to them late.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't with the Kylie Minogue duet. It was much later,
Okay.
probably in the past 5 years, that I've really got into him, and just love his stuff. And there's a great little compilation which is worthwhile for those who have not got into him yet to just go and have an introduction to his music. It's outstanding. And one of my favorites of his is In the Ghetto, which is
Yeah.
his cover of the Elvis Presley tune.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I just love his work.
Well, that's one of the songs that I was introduced to when my manager Keith decided to try and get me interested in Nick Cave. But In the Ghetto wasn't exactly indicative of what other stuff I was listening to from him at the time. But In the Ghetto is certainly a fantastic song. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, number two.
Another Aussie band, started as a side project for the more ambient sounding, not drowning waving. I'm talking about My Friend the Chocolate Cake, and I've Got a Plan. This is one of those songs where it really feels like you're being let in on a very personal conversation. There's this conspiratorial sense to it, and I'm trying to think, you know, David Bridie's voice. There's something so warm and inviting about it. And what did it? It reminds me of the first time I heard "No Aphrodisiac" by the Whitlams and Tim Friedman's warm and very personal voice. Like you're sitting in a small room, maybe there's a candle on the table, and you're having a coffee together, and letting you in on personal secrets. So yeah, I love that one. Still do. I've Got a Plan, My Friend the Chocolate Cake.
Yum.
Awesome.
Could say that. Yeah, and you did.
Wes?
Look, one of the things I'm enjoying in just doing this is watching your faces twitch at the point where, oh, I know what you're talking about. So let's see how we go with this one. Okay.
Yeah, we got Tom pretty early. That's all right.
All right. So this one is the Rolling Stones used a line from my number 2 song in their 1997 song, Anybody Seen My Baby? Now, the original tune was by, and they gave credit to the original singer and writer.
Okay.
The original tune was by a Canadian singer, and that song was first released in 1992. So I hope you accept that here, because it was re-released in 1994 and became the biggest hit during that year, or 1994 was the peak year for this song. It's got a really compelling melody and a vocal which is just so full, brimming, I guess, with yearning that only this artist can do justice to. Now, the song was a modest selling hit, but it was a radio favorite, especially on the ABC. I'm talking about Constant Craving from K.D. Lang. A stunning song. My number 2.
And a stunning singer too. Just her voice just sends shivers down your spine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One of the very few people who can do justice to Roy Orbison covers.
Yes, Crying you're talking about.
Yeah, which she did release as a duet with, and at a certain point there seemed to be a campaign to bring Roy Orbison back into the spotlight as somebody who'd been overlooked for years and just a stellar talent. And yeah, as I say, one of the very few people who you could put alongside him who could sing in such a mesmerizing way.
Yeah.
Katie Lang, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my number two, another Aussie act called The Cruel Sea, featuring Mr. Tex Perkins.
Wow.
Can't get this song out of my head. It's been 30 years, but still love the uh, sentiment behind this song. This one is called Better Get a Lawyer, Son. Better get a real good one.
Good run.
What a great song. It got to top 30 in the national charts and on the hottest 100 of Triple J that got into number 14s. Just a great song. Just that swagger, that intent that he produces on that song is magnificent. And so yeah, still love it to this day. It hasn't I don't think it's grown old or anything like that. It's just one of those songs that when you play it or when it comes on somewhere, you just got to just sing along and enjoy the spirit of that particular track. The Cruel Sea. Better get a lawyer, son.
Now, I went to see Tex Perkins and Matt Walker recently at the recently reopened Palais in Geelong. And, they're singing away and they're doing these songs and this big rough persona and the big booming voice. And there's this steam kind of coming up the back of the stage. And they're like, what? And at a certain point, they'd finished the song and he gets up and it's the kettle and he makes himself a cup of tea. He goes, I've got to have a cup of tea. So as an Englishman, 10 out of 10 for making a cup of tea at the opportune moment. Absolutely wonderful.
Awesome.
Was the Palais a dry venue?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't at that point, but may have been prior.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, there are our number twos. Before we go into our number ones, how about some honorable mentions as we normally do? Martin, you can start us off.
Okay, deep breath time. Rebecca's Empire, Rebecca Barnard and Shane O'Mara and friends. Atomic Electric. Simple song, just loved it. I think Polydor at the time, they set up a small sub-label to develop some independent Melbourne artists or local artists. And so they gave Rebecca's Empire the opportunity of putting a few singles out and loved that one. Max Sharam, Coma. Don't know if you remember her, a little bit kind of semi-yodeling / alternative. The Yerk, of course, Venus is a Boy, first out of the Sugar Cubes. Dinosaur Jr., Field of Pain, Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, Portishead, Glory Box, and Crowded House, Distant Sun.
Ah, that's
interesting. Yeah. But what a year for songs, and how many of these did I come across via Triple J, as we mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's one bonus here, who I discovered via the old Gaslight Records in Burke Street in the city in Melbourne. They're on the listening station, a group who I've never heard of before or since, Velvet Crush, and they had a record called Teenage Symphonies to God, which it was a phrase that Phil Spector used to use. Power pop, guitars, bass, drums, big melodies, and a song called Hold Me Up. Velvet Crush.
Cool.
Worth a listen. Worth a listen.
Yeah.
And here endeth my copious list of bonus songs.
Yeah, it's great. Fantastic. And kudos to Triple J for breaking a lot of artists over the years. Absolutely magnificent. Where's your honorable mentions?
Keeping in mind that I was still finding it very hard to listen to new music and enjoy it for myself at this stage, and therefore it doesn't have the same deep interest of Triple J at that time. And the songs that I was interested in as my also rans were The Pretenders and I'll Stand By You. Love that.
Mhm.
Robertson Brothers, my only Australian in this list, and a song called Send a Message. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Robertson Brothers. They do a lot of touring around Australia, often in the Performing Arts Centre circuit, and they've had several near hits over the time, and it's very adult contemporary. Send a Message, and the song got as far as 68 on the national charts. And then Please Forgive Me, Mariah Carey, Anytime You Need a Friend, the remixes.
I don't know if we can still be friends, Wes.
Well, we might be able to get that back with my number one, maybe not.
Okay. All right, we'll see.
Cool.
That's a big bridge to rebuild.
Yes, I know. But, look, we're here talking about songs that we liked at the time or could bear at the time, in my case. And then, hey, I can still listen to it today, and I play it maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
And look, this is what makes a conversation so interesting is how divergent and diverse we can be at times. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, my honourables. Triple J features in these. Just Mazzy Star, Fade Into You.
Mm-hmm.
You Am I. They started getting a bit of notoriety in 94 with their song Berlin Chair. Great song. Then we'll go to Silverchair with Tomorrow. When they hit the scene, obviously they were following a particular formula, I guess you might call it, with regard to the old grunge scene, and but that song stuck with me. I enjoyed it, and seeing 15, 16-year-old guys producing music like that, I was gobsmacked, to say the least, and appreciated what they had to offer. The Offspring, bit of come out and play action in 1994.
Wow, that's almost as out there as we're saying Mariah Carey.
Almost.
Well, it was a Triple J song, and
Yeah, yeah.
that I enjoyed.
That's a good
Right.
And a controversial one. The good thing about Triple J is they didn't censor their music. They didn't put the old, beeps in certain areas, and they just let the song play. And one of the ones that really stuck out in that respect was Nine Inch Nails with a song called Closer. And that was just illuminating, to say the least, for me. And kudos again to Triple J for playing stuff like that, which I still enjoy today. Great song.
Something happened in 1992, and that was we had the Broadcast Services Act. And what that did was change the whole way that radio did stuff. For example, prior to that time, if you had a song which had a magic word in it, it would have been regarded as obscene and therefore wouldn't have been able to be played. And in the 80s in particular, there was a list of songs that was put out by the Federation of Australian Radio Broadcasters saying, you can't play these songs ever, or your management has got a choice. But what happened in 1992 was that there was a change of thinking, and that was it was recognized that if you had a target audience and language was acceptable in that target audience, then go ahead and do that. For example, if you were listening to Triple J and you were dropping an F-bomb, for example, that was okay. And Granny coming along and complaining about it would have been out of line because she's not part of the target audience.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
therefore, language was acceptable because it was acceptable to the audience that you were trying to reach. Kind of like if you dropped an F-bomb on a religious radio station, for example, that would be not acceptable to the majority of their listeners. And therefore, you would be get more than a slap on the wrist if you were the broadcaster of that, because you were stepping out of line. But if you're communicating in language that is acceptable to your target audience, you can say whatever you like.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And to me, that was a benefit to Triple J to not have to be censored like the other radio stations actually did do.
Well, in the early stages in 1974, when they went to air, or 1975 actually, and they did the Skyhook song, But You Just Like Me, that wasn't allowed to be played on commercial radio.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they played a song which nobody else was going to be able to play and won everybody's hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, they set themselves apart immediately.
Yeah.
Right. The statement of intent, we aren't going to do it by everybody else's rules or standards. We're
No,
going to carve our own path. Yeah.
they didn't have to because they had a different charter.
Yeah, great. Wow.
Yeah. And I recall the commercial stations, a couple of them playing Closer by Nine Inch Nails and beeps all over the place. You didn't even get I don't know, the gravity of the intent of the song because of all the beeping that was going on. And then you go to Triple J and they play the song.
Gravity all over the place.
Yeah, that's
And now
exactly.
we've got explicit and clean versions of songs being put out by the record companies, and you choose the one that's appropriate for your audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought like stations like Triple M were had a particular audience that would be I don't know, conducive to listening to the full version of something closer, but
at night time, late at night.
yeah.
Maybe not at drive time or breakfast time, but
I wonder if the advertisers had a say in a lot of that as well.
no doubt at all. My suspicion is that commercial radio is driven by advertising, and so many decisions. This is why they have all the research, so they can tell the advertisers, we do this way, and you're going to get this much return for your dollar. And the advertisers say, great, we want more of this and less of that.
Let's get into our number ones, boys. Martin.
All right, number one, it's a very obscure song. Don't know if you remember the movie The Fifth Element, sci-fi movie made by Luc Besson, who done The Professional, and then he did Joan of Arc the following year. Bruce Willis,
Yes.
and an actress who seemed to be wearing nothing but bandages, just bandages covering up all the cover-upable bits. Her name was Mila Jovovich. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. She had a record out, which under the name Mila, so she didn't use her surname on it at all, and called The Divine Comedy. And bit of Dante. What's this all about? I want to hear this. And she had a single from that called Gentleman Who Fell. And sometimes subtitled on, depending which territory the single was released in, Gentleman Who Fell, The Gentleman Who Fell Before the Court. Now, this was a hit in America on alternative rock radio, but there's no electric guitars to be found, no guitars, no drums, no bass playing. In fact, the only instrumentation on it, there's this three-note soaring violin riff in a loop going over and over and over, and then you'll hear some flutes or some woodwinds, and then a cello comes in, and it's basically it's like a Ukrainian folk song meets gothic fairy tale kind of ambience. And to my surprise, I thought, because of the maturity and the eccentric nature of this song, I thought, she was probably 30 or 40. Turns out she was 18 years old when she made this record. She had said that she wanted to be like a cross between Kate Bush, Sinead O'Connor, the Cocteau Twins, and this Mortal Coil. But there's a bit of Martha Davis from the Motels and a bit of Nina Hagen as well. It's produced by Rupert Hine. I don't know if you remember his song, Misplaced Love. And Rupert Hine also was one of the producers on Tina Turner's Private Dancer album. He did 2 songs on that, including Better Be Good to Me. And then went on to produce Krista Berg, Rush, Howard Jones, Stevie Nicks, and many others. Very eccentric song. Just one of those melodies. And she never made any more records after this. And a great loss, I think. She pursued her acting and modeling career further and has gone on to great success with those. But the most astonishing thing about this song, which I only found out, so I've been listening to this for the last 30 years, but I only found out a couple of weeks ago, it was co-written by Mark Holden.
Oh, spill all.
So Mark Holden, of course, to my mind, his comeback was when he produced Vanessa Amorosi and helped launch her career. Of course, Vanessa, just a young girl who put forth this incredible voice, but over time, her artistry did mature, with no discredit to her original releases. So to me, it's like, wow, Vanessa, very calculated commercial kind of sound, whereas Mila's work was eccentric and a little bit out there, a little bit alternative. So got played on alternative rock radio, and whereas for this kind of Ukrainian girl who moved to the West and developed a successful acting and modeling career, just one of those songs completely out of the box. Gentleman Who Fell by Mia Jovovich. That's my number one.
Yeah.
My number one.
Something to go and listen
Might be
to.
worth exploring.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, my number one was actually recorded on March the 8th, 1993. You're probably wondering why the hell am I putting this in my top 5, let alone number one?
Yeah.
Well, it was recorded on a very small label, and I think about 500 copies were actually issued at the time. And word started getting around about this song. A few radio stations were playing it, and it started gathering a bit of momentum. And then Geffen Records come into play, and they signed this guy up. And the song became a worldwide smash. In fact, it actually it made top 10 here in Australia as well as many other countries. He's American. His name's Beck, and the song's called Loser. A great song. I couldn't believe the first time I heard this song. It's just like got a mix of very different styles in the actual song itself, and very appealing to me. Great lyrics. I don't know what they mean, but great lyrics. One of those Bob Dylan type things. Listening to this song, trying to make out what he's trying to say, but not succeeding. But great musically as well, and it's got that hip hop. It's got a bit of rock. It's got a bit of that bluesy style in there as well. Just magic to me. It's a potpourri of different styles, which actually works for my ears anyway. And that's my number one for 1994, "Loser" by Beck.
Good call. And as you say, with the Mila song, it's like eccentric elements. Throw them into the blender, and what I did see a version of Mila's song done on one of the Tonight shows with a grand piano and electric bass guitar. completely different arrangement, but equally as powerful, if not more so. But it's like the willingness to play with the elements and throw the, what Beck did so well, throw the hip hop, the acoustic slide guitar and the blues and that kind of grungy vocal, and create something new
Yeah.
from the ingredients that are at hand. Wonderful.
Yeah. And it was highly influential. Geffen didn't release it till early 1994, which is fortuitous for me to put into my top five. But yes, highly influential track, that one. And yeah, Beck's gone on to do amazing things over the years and still continues to produce some great albums. So Wes, what about your number one? He says knowingly, oh, unknowingly.
You probably think it's more Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Close. The first edition, which was Kenny Rogers' early band, recorded a song with this title. The New Seekers, Les Humphreys, Esther O'Farham, you might remember Cinderella Rockefeller from the 60s.
She's an incredible singer by herself.
Yeah.
But go on. Yeah.
And a Swedish producer recorded songs of the same title, which has got religious overtones, but it wasn't religious at all, just joyous. For me, it was the biggest feel-good dance hit of 1994. Those living in Melbourne at the time would have had community radio aspirants Hits FM and 777 to thank for playing the song incessantly during each of their 3-month test broadcasts. The catchy lyrics and the boppy dance beats are enhanced by some rousing hand claps, incessant piano lines, and a chirpy gospel choir. It's a truly irresistible tune. They will have you raising your hands to the sky and singing along with the wonderful, catchy chorus.
I'm singing it already, Wes. I'm singing it already.
It's my number one tune of 1994. It sold 70,000 copies in Australia that year. I'm talking about Dr. Album and
Sing Hallelujah.
yes, there you go. My number one tune.
Woo!
Wow.
Sing Hallelujah.
Oh, Wes.
That's how you finish, mate. That's how you finish. Because you can't follow that.
Wow. That is really an eclectic mix, our top fives. It's always unexpected, a lot of the stuff that we come up with. And it's also good to venture in and dive into some of the things that you guys have mentioned. That's something that I'll be doing, that stuff that I hadn't heard before, getting into it and seeing what that produces to my ears. But another good exploration of a particular year as far as singles are concerned. But next time we catch up, we'll be looking at the 1994 albums. So that'll be an interesting dig as we look to find our top fives.
More musical archaeology on the way.
Correct. So until next time, boys, we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, Leo. See you, Wes.